Welcome to the Wow Effect. This is where 6 and 7-figure women share the raw, unfiltered stories of how they built their empires. I'm your host, Mallory Steele. The room is ready. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Wow Effect podcast. Jessica Flynn, I'm so excited to have you join me today. I know we've had a couple of conversations and just really admire you, and I'm so excited to jump into this. So thank you for joining me on here.
Oh, thank you, Mallory. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we start from the beginning, if you're okay with that? And I mean, you can choose what the beginning is because there can be a few different beginnings, but you're beginning into entrepreneurship. How did this all start?
Yes. I do start at my childhood, but I can get it pretty succinct, so don't worry.
Okay.
I always talk about how, as a kid, I was really into the arts. I love sports and all that, but once I found the arts, music, I competed in music at the conservatory level. I got really nerdy in theater and performing. And I went to university for theater. We didn't have any entrepreneurs in our family, in our circle. I grew up in a very small town that just happened to have a vibrant arts school. My parents are both European. They're like, my grandparents are all immigrants. So the dream was you get your career with one company, you work 40 years, you earn a pension, you take care of your family. There wasn't this like fulfillment through work. It wasn't like work was work and life was life. And but you know, my grandparents on my Polish side were both prisoners of war in World War II. So it was very much about, we're just so lucky to be here, and you do the hard work, and this is a way of doing life. So factory workers, farm workers, and then my parents were both managers, but with organizations, and worked their way up kind of that corporate ladder. I was the first to go to university and complete my degree. I was allowed to play. I've been saying in my story, you know, going to study theater was such a privilege. It absolutely is, but especially coming from the context of my family history. But then there wasn't, it was, okay, now you get a job. You got to do that thing. You got to do more exploration and play than anyone in our families have. And now it's time to get a job. And I had no idea when do you graduate university? 2021, what I wanted to do with the rest of my life still, even though I had the opportunity to study and meet more people. So I'm
still figuring out what I want to do when I grow up.
Now, right? So I think we're getting better at busting that myth, but our systems still actually ask us as young people to make those decisions based on this very outdated way of what are you going to do with the rest of your life. So I do what many do when they're not sure. You teach. So I went to teachers college instead of taking that risk and moving to the city and auditioning for things. And my heart was so in the arts, but I just didn't have it was a lot of fear, and I didn't have an example in my life of that working out or how you even do that. And business, the B word of business, I had no one in my life. And I know our stories are quite different in that regard. Like I didn't have that. So teaching it was, and I did love working with young people. I feel that my presentation skills, like all the things that I loved about the arts, production, organizing people, working together on something. I got a lot of what I loved in teaching, you know, being a part of a teaching team, working with, like, I just think teenagers and young people are so fun and are at this really interesting point in their lives where you can really make a difference. So it's also such a privilege to play a role in a young person's life and be a part of their world. And I never took that lightly. But also I quickly learned, I'm not sure if this environment is, you know, I like the work, I like what I'm doing here, I like the impact I'm able to make. There are a lot of things I'm not so sure I like. First of all, the experience that I'm taking my students through is so similar to the experience I just had. And it didn't equip me with everything that I needed, for sure. And yeah, so I always say I was one of the lucky ones where it took me 8 years to get a permanent teaching job. This is when everyone wanted to be a teacher. And I was also holding out for a position in high school, so it took a little longer. But those 8 years in my early 20s gave me the opportunity to then explore all these other industries. So what ended up happening is I moved to Collingwood, Ontario, which is a very entrepreneurial part of the province. It's one of the top entrepreneurial towns / cities in the country, in Canada. So met a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who were designing their life, choosing a lifestyle and a landscape first, and then figuring out how they can professionally make that happen for themselves to really enjoy those parts of their lives. I was hired as an education director for an Oxford Learning Center, which is a franchise, tutoring franchise. So I got to learn about, the private side of education and in that kind of model. I was able to work with not just students, but with their parents, with staff in schools to try and support students from a holistic lens. Also managing a team for the first time. So we had a small team. I think our largest was 12 people, tutors, but that was new for me. At the same time, my partner and I, my now husband, were renovating properties that he owned. So getting really, into this whole other world I'd never experienced before, which is construction and project management and design. And I was really good at that too. And that's when I started getting confused. I'm like, how can I be more than one thing? I'm supposed to choose one thing for 40 years. That's the formula. And I totally bought into that. And I was trying so hard for that to be the case for me. And the more I, was exploring, the more people I was meeting, the more skills I was developing and building confidence, I thought, okay, well, it's going to be harder to settle on one thing. I also got an opportunity to be an operations director for a scaling resort spa. So again, new industry. It was in tourism and hospitality. We have Blue Mountain Village here, so big tourist hub. That was managing a team of 40 practitioners. Again, a whole new industry, whole new world, all while supply teaching, doing my long-term contracts when I would get them, and using my vacation time to get in my minimum days of teaching, still nurturing relationships. So, in your 20s, you have so much time and energy and you don't realize it. But I'm really proud of how curious I was and how I allowed myself to be curious and to follow, and what felt like and looked like what's the term, when you don't stick with things, bouncing all over the place. My parents, who believed in me and saw me as a teacher and knew I was a great teacher, were like, why are you doing all this other stuff? Just don't understand it. And yeah, I started my own construction company in that time. It was a busy 8 years.
Don't lose your train of thought. But I'm thinking, as you're sharing all these things, that's what I was thinking, is what your parents were thinking, is you're doing all these different things. And I think a lot of women in business do that when they look back. When you're in the middle of it, it may not make sense, going from thing to thing to thing, different industry, different skill set. But then all of a sudden, it's like it all comes together.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I knew what it looked like from the outside, but I knew from where I stood, it did make sense. It made sense. And no, this is who I'm becoming. And I've said this in other interviews, I've never had a very clear, up until recently, I didn't have that clear vision of where I was going, but I knew what didn't feel good and what felt like I had outgrown, or this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And that was just as helpful, sometimes more helpful, than knowing exactly what it is supposed to be. So I didn't have the answers of, well, what's your plan here? What are you doing? I'm like, not that. All I know for certain is it's not that, but I can't give you a clear what it is because I haven't become her yet. I mean, I now have the language to explain it as I was becoming. I was allowing myself to become. And there's this incredible book that I only discovered a couple of years ago. It would have been helpful back then too. That's why I try and bring it up. If you're a parent and you have, young people, if you're in this mode yourself, it's called The Principle of 18. And it talks about our lives in quadrants of 18 years. And I really subscribe to the way that this philosophy is rolled out because it was my experience. And the idea is the first 18 years of our lives are the believe stage. And this is where we should allow young people to believe that anything is possible and really focus on growth mindset instead of fixed mindset, which 40-year career, go to school, get the certificate, be this thing, be happy with 2.5 children or whatever the new status, we introduce that formula for success so early on that we bust that believe bubble way too soon when their brains are still developing. And I've also talked about creative genius is alive and well in really young kids, like primary school age. But as we take them through our systems, what is human genius, and 98% of us are born human or creative geniuses as humans, it gets snuffed out of us so that by the time we're adults, only 2% of us can tap into that creative genius. So that 0 to 18 years is really meant to let kids dream up whatever is possible. And then from 18 to 36 is explore. And this book says at least 3 completely distinct industries. So I got that in spades. I had education, hospitality and tourism, construction, plus all the other things I didn't mention. Lots of exploration. And then once you're 36, the next 18 years, you double down and build your empire. Now that you know who you are and what you're good at and what you like to do. So for me, entrepreneurship, to circle way back to the original question, how did it all start? Whoa, was it messy? And I didn't know. For me, entrepreneurship is letting yourself be who you are, and understanding what you do really well, what you love to do, and then monetizing that and designing a life around who you are, who you evolve into. And how can you connect that to making a difference in the world, making a difference in your community while monetizing? So I look at the Western version of Ikigai. What are you good at? What are you skilled at? What do you love doing? Who can you serve? And how can you make money? So to me, that is Ikigai, or the Western interpretation of it is entrepreneurship.
There's so much gold in there. I have a billion questions.
Yeah.
It is so good. Even that last part of with Ikigai, and I've heard so many pitches over the years of women with, they've finally found their passion. They have the heart. They want to feel fulfilled, and they have this great idea, and it sounds so great, except it's well, who's going to pay for it? How's it going to be?
Yeah, because Ikigai isn't a business, or it's not a hobby. How do you take your hobby and make it a business? And sometimes your hobby is meant to be your hobby, and it's not. 100%. It kills your passion when you try and make it into a business.
Totally. But even thinking things when I get to this point, you're going to want to get on board because Elon Musk is going to pick this up, and it's you know what? Elon Musk has a billion other pitches every single day. Most likely that's not going to be the route. So let's look at a route that's more reasonable. And how could you sustain this on your own?
Yeah.
But I want to come back to a word that you said that we talk a lot about with the go-getters is the word messy. Because people are so afraid to take that step because they got to perfect. But when you are building to your 6 figures initially, I believe it has to be messy. And it should be messy because you're learning and you don't have enough data to make it perfect. So move forward messy. And then when you get to the mid 6-figure range, then clean up the mess that you created.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm in that mode now. I'm okay, I don't need to do as many. I have more confidence. I have more proof of what I've been doing and how it's working and where it doesn't work. And but yeah, throwing spaghetti at the wall is an analogy that I used for many, many years, especially like the first 4 years of setting up my consulting practice, as well as our ed tech company. Like, you have to throw some stuff out there to see what's going to stick. And I'm also, I laugh at myself. I think I'm growing out of my impatient. Like, impatience is a word that I've used to describe myself since I was a young person. But seeing the value of letting something, giving yourself some time to let it play out and experiment, is also been some like real uncomfortable learning and growth for me, is stretching my patience muscles too.
You're making me think of the movie Evan Almighty. I don't know if you ever watched.
Oh yeah.
There was, he has to build Noah's Ark, and I guess the wife had prayed for family time. And while they're building this ark over I don't know how long, she's like, God, why are you punishing us? Why are we doing all this? Why are we this is horrible? And he goes, well, I answered your prayer. You prayed for more quality family time.
Right. You're building this together, shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost like, be careful what we pray for. So coming back to the patience, I think I went through that season too of like, God, I pray I have more patience. Give me more patience. Give me more patience. And it's like, okay, here's all of the scenarios to test your patience.
Yes. I wasn't praying for it. I didn't want to be patient. And I was given look how good things can get and how strong you can be, and all the lessons you need to learn as a leader to have the success that you're envisioning for yourself. Because if I would have been realizing the types of opportunities we have now, 3 or 4 years ago, we would have screwed it up. I wouldn't have been ready to, just like I'm going to continue learning lessons that will get me ready for the next level up that we'll do.
100%.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your construction company for a minute. So how did you transition from what you were doing into starting a construction company?
Yeah, so that all happened while so at that time I was working at the spa as an operations director, managing a large team, using my vacation, 2 weeks vacation a year to get my minimum supply days in to stay with the school board. And I would come home, and my husband and I were renovating a house built in 1856. It was a sixplex of his that we took 3 years. Again, talk about patience. We had this big plan. It was all going to be done in 6 months. It took us 3 years. But I worked with the Heritage Committee. I was sourcing material from all over the place, like doing it on a budget, hiring all these different trades. And I just loved that work. To me, there was something so satisfying about you do this thing on a weekend, you pull nails, you scrape paint, and then there's this beautiful thing, result of your work. And so I really enjoy that industry. I still do a little bit of consulting work in the attainable housing space now. I think, education, housing, eventually maybe food systems, it all connects, right? So, but it got to a point where I thought I'm good at this. I'm good at the project management. I'm good at design. I really enjoy it. I wasn't enjoying as much. I was learning that the hospitality and tourism industry was not really where I needed to be or wanted to be necessarily. So grateful for what it taught me. And I still am very close to my mentor, and learned a lot. But yeah, I wanted to pursue it. And that was my first solo venture, going out, and not even with my husband, but on my own. It was called Funky Bunkies. And we specialized in small, beautiful structures, managing team. And I wanted to be a female project manager in the space because there weren't a lot of women in the construction industry. There still aren't, definitely, compared to men. And I wanted smaller projects to get time and attention, smaller budgets to have project management. It was... Sorry,
when you were in that role, do you have any insights on how you got buy-in, being, a female in a predominantly male environment?
I found that I was celebrated and welcomed. It was kind of that breath of fresh air of, oh, you're going to deal with all the guys, all the trades, and like use your operation strengths and your communication strengths. Like it is a real natural fit for a woman to be in that kind of role. And we had a phenomenal year of operation. Like the business grew. This is my first business. It hit 6 figures in revenue. And we had the problem that I wasn't anticipating, which is like too fast, too soon. So talking about like patience and learning your lessons. So it was definitely a lot of that. It was also being ahead of your time. So thinking of the pitches that you hear sometimes you see a great idea and the timing just isn't right. So that was back in 2017. We wanted to be doing attainable housing and small living, which was trendy on HGTV. But in Ontario, where we were operating out of, the bylaws weren't there yet. The municipal laws weren't there yet. So you couldn't really. And that was our intention, was more like guest houses, artist suites, just to service the area that we were in. But what we weren't ready for was the onslaught of what the market actually wanted, was that housing product that we weren't able to deliver because of, legalities. So there was this like push and pull of, we had a lot of business that we had to learn how to handle on the kind of auxiliary space side. People wanted yoga studios and art studios and guest houses. But the mission side, we wanted to build housing and we couldn't. And then what happened was I got pregnant with our son intentionally. It was exciting. At the same time where that permanent teaching job was, your name got called to the top of the list. And so it was this, like I've learned so much, but it's also starting to get hard. This now feels like, with a baby on the way, like the responsible thing to do. It's that 40 years with the pension and the benefits. And so at 20, how old was I then? 29. My fear won, and I took the teaching job and closed Funky Bunkies, but learned so much. I still don't regret doing that at all. But that was kind of the life cycle of the first company. And like there could be a whole podcast episode on all the things I learned from that experience.
I bet there could. I love that. And I love the name. Is there just top of mind? Is there?
I still own the name. Yeah.
You? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Who knows? It might be a thing again one day.
Yeah.
But
quick pause for a second. If you're loving conversations like this is exactly the kind of energy we build inside the WOW Collective. It's a community of women growing serious businesses and doing it together. Now let's get back to the conversation.
I think a lot of women tie their identity to their first business too. Which can be tough if you have to close it down and you're emotionally attached to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you had to go through that shift. It doesn't sound like you did, but just top of mind, what were a couple of the things that you learned from running that business?
Oh gosh, you can't control. You have so little control in that. Can't control the weather. As much as you build a great team culture, managing trades and individual contractors is always going to be difficult. And if I could have afforded it and I would have had the plan to do it, like not being afraid to we did get a business loan for that business, but it wasn't big enough to me to actually hire staff. So I was still working with contractors. So a business like that, if I were to do another, construction build business, I'd like to have trades actually on staff, because I do think it helps it profoundly on the culture side of things. And the construction companies that I still follow that scale, they have that company culture internally and they're not reliant on external contractors. So that's something that I've taken with me through my other businesses, is really aiming to be able to hire and build an internal team. So you have a little bit more control and also fun, and you get to build something together.
Yeah, so good. And probably some consistency too, right? Build some momentum and build on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So bring us to present day. What are you doing now?
What am I doing now? All sorts of things, but really
Where do you start?
I got hired in 2018 as a permanent teacher. And then when I had my daughter, my second child, I resigned from permanent teaching. So in 2020. So although I was with the school board for 10 years, once I got that permanent teaching letter, it was more of the knowing, I know what's not going to be my career, and it's this in this environment. Rather than, again, well, what are you leaving for? So consulting is what I started doing. Like, look, I know who I am and what I've learned, and people want to have my thoughts and opinions and collaboration on their projects. So I started consulting in 2021, which I still do now, and I love the variety. I love like that collaborating with clients. It is teaching, it is coaching. So again, a lot of the things that I loved from teaching, a lot of things I love in the arts of like creation and collaboration, I get that in consulting. So still love consulting. I really bring a lot of value on the strategy, impact, and operations side of things. So those are the clients who I'm attracted, who get attracted to my work. And then I am the CEO and founder of the U Power Project, or Youth Empowerment Project, also founded in 2021, because this is how I tend to do things. And this was, again, out of what I love about entrepreneurs, as opposed to when I was in what I'll say corporate or government, is we don't complain on a Monday morning in a staff room about things that are out of our control. We identify a problem that we are obsessed with, and then we start getting to work. We iterate, we create solutions, but fall in love with the problem and not your solution is definitely like to me, the problem is unengaged youth, support systems that aren't properly preparing them for their future, not for our past, but for their future. I always said my favorite students were the ones who called bullshit on what we were asking them to do in certain scenarios. I love those students, and I think that should be celebrated more, and bringing an entrepreneurial mindset to how we prepare future generations. And I think becoming a mom was just that, like, I can't wait any longer. Like this, my own kids are coming into the system. My own kids are in the public education system. And I wanted to be a part of their solution as well. So the U Power Project has been delivering turnkey youth entrepreneurship programs for youth ages 10 to 18. We partner with municipal government. We're working on scaling the levels of government that we're working with. We have an MOU with an East African country in their Ministry of Education for a project that would impact millions of students and teachers a year. And that is the work that both lights me up and combines all the things. It's the teacher, it's the parent, it's the business woman, it's the impact driver and change maker in me. So that's my priority focus, is being the CEO.
So good. So exciting. Let's go down that path for a second. How do you end up from Collingwood, Ontario into Africa?
Great question. Something that we talked about in our first pitch presentation to our clients. So with the U Power Project, it's been last year, it was 3 years of, oh my gosh, when we work at a regional level, the transformation that we see in students is profound. And we were working in 6 to 8 week programs, typically kind of like a summer program, all virtual. We would get this past year, 2025 summer, 90% of our students across all cohorts launched operational revenue generating ventures in a 6-week virtual summer program. And I say 6 weeks, that's 1 hour with us per week plus our material. What we're doing is freaking awesome, and it works, and the kids love it. That's the hardest thing. You're getting buy-in from youth ages 10 to 18. And why isn't it taking off? Every year when we do our fiscal, and my husband would be like, you are still paying to have this business, right? This balance of, is this a hobby or is this a business? And for the first 3 years, it was a hobby, a fairly expensive hobby. But I'm like, there's just something here. What is it? What do we need to do? And my husband last November said, as much as Canada needs this, of course, the world's future is in the hands of Africa. The world's youth live in Africa. It is the youngest continent. Most of the population is under the age of 25. That's where the future is. And my response was, okay, Greg, we'll get me a call with Africa. I was like, how does one even do that? That was my response. And through word of mouth, networking, I was in a phenomenal cohort with the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, working on our Flip the Script pitch competition, which we came in second for. And in my little cohort of 5 or 6 women, one of them had a connection to Global Affairs Canada. And it was we have this vision of going global. Does anyone know anyone? And this individual did. We had a meeting with Global Affairs Canada. They said, look, you're pretty small beans for what we normally work with, but no one in our client roster is doing what you're doing. And we see the potential. So yes, you can be in Global Affairs Canada. And from there, we just doing some research. We wanted to get connected with the Trade Commissioner in Kenya. Because they are doing phenomenal things in education. This is a nation that pours a lot of money into education in terms of, percentage of their national budget. They have what's called the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which means they get it. If you want to transform a nation, if you want economic prosperity for a nation, you invest in youth and education. And we just got, again, word of mouth, like doing some research and holding a vision and finding the right people there who are involved in transforming the country's focus to competency-based education. So in that part of Africa, focusing on communication, critical thinking and problem solving, creativity, digital literacy, as opposed to rote content and memorization. So our curriculum just aligns so well, and it's an area of the world that's has momentum and is, I said in that first pitch, and we're still hoping to do this project. It's not official yet, but I said, the world that my children will experience will be led and defined by your children. So if there's something that we have that you are interested in, we're happy to collaborate with you. So that's how that's been going. And we hope that we can actually bring this project to life in 2026.
I could just sit here and listen to you all day. You can tell it's obvious, your stuff and you're passionate about it. You're like, go, go, go. You know it. I love it.
It's an honor to get to do this work. And I think that's what I wake up grateful. And almost every call we have with our potential partners is just thank you for being open so that we can do this together. Yeah, there is definitely opportunity to follow your dreams and make a difference and take care of yourself and your family. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was another question I have for you. Mm-hmm. How are you taking care of yourself and your family? Like, you're involved in so many things. How are you finding the balance of everything? How are you juggling all of this?
My answer to that question is always, my husband is a stay-at-home parent, first and foremost. So that was a decision we made a couple of years ago when my businesses were really starting to take off. And naturally, he is better at home with the kids, and I am better out in the world, networking, having conversations. He's so supportive of me. His full-time job is the kids. His other full-time job is my mindset coach and in-house economics guy and data scientist. So that's helpful too. But I don't believe in balance. I think it's, if you picture someone balancing, holding all the plates, that's next to impossible. I think harmony is, how does everything live in an ecosystem? And there are some days, before we started recording, we were talking about our holidays, and I was offline for the first time in, honestly, Mallory, years, just for 4 days. And I was really uncomfortable. I like being online, but man, I'm so grateful that I gave my kids and myself that quality time. But that's not, I don't do it in balance. It's, and also I am the main breadwinner for the family. And I'm getting better at not feeling guilty for missing some things, knowing that they've got a parent there. And this was a decision that we made as a family, that we wanted a parent there, and the right parent is there. Yeah.
I love that. I'm sure some women can resonate with the feeling of guilt of, and, you know, moving through that and come to that realization.
Yeah. And I still have moments of guilt for sure, but I try and remind myself like what I'm doing is also for them. And I'm still like, I'm joining you from my home office. I will be here when my kids get off the bus. You know, I'm not as present as maybe I'd like to be all the time, but they know that I'm here, and they celebrate, you know, the work that I get to do as well. So that's part of it. And
I think you're setting a great example for them on how they can lead their life. Right? It doesn't have to be, I don't believe in that word balance either. It's life. Like, we're designing the life that we want to live every day. So,
and mommy wants to work and she wants to travel. And I think too, this is the work that we're even preaching around the world, is that you can design a life that you are uplifted by, that can connect you to making change and helping others. And so if I was, you know, doing that for an organization I didn't believe in and grinding it out, like, that wouldn't be authentic. So I think how we are hoping to shape futures for young people is what I'm trying to live myself as well.
Yeah, so good. So Jessica, you have a bit of a team with you. Do you have any guidance for any women who are just starting out, like they've reached their cap, they have to build a team now, and they're just starting out?
Oh my gosh, you have to. Okay, two books. 10X is easier than 2X. And the same authors wrote Who, Not How. Read those, because I waited too long to hire my first executive assistant. My first hire as an executive assistant, I was like, oh, like, I can't afford it. I'm worried that I'll hire someone and then won't be able to afford them. Also understand the kind of business that you want to grow. Not everybody does want to be acquired by Google or, you know, one day. What kind of business do you want, and work backwards from there. But you can't do it alone after a certain point. And 6 figures seems to be, if you want to like crack that into the mid and higher, certainly not. So that 10X is easier than 2X philosophy I love, because if you're looking at your business as even taking it from 100K revenue to 200K revenue, you could in your brain like, okay, well, if I doubled the amount of calls that I did, if I like literally doubled my efforts, you can picture yourself doing that. But you can't picture yourself 10Xing something. It's a completely different business, and you need to be a completely different person in order to execute on that business. And then it is about the who are you bringing along, that how am I going to teach 9 million students in East Africa about entrepreneurship? That'd be ridiculous and impossible. So how do you build a vision and then find people who find their genius zone? What is their you power? And I love, one of my first mentors who hired me, we did that personality quiz, and she's like, okay, we did this. I forget which one it was, but you're essentially opposite to me. And my 22-year-old brain was like, oh no, that means I won't get the job. And her response was, which is exactly why I need to hire you, so that we can, balance each other out. And you fill gaps and you'll learn from me and vice versa. So know where you want to go, be really honest with yourself of like what parts you can do and what you want to do. And then start filling in the gaps. But I think you have to have faith that what you're building will support, and people want to you will attract, when you're clear on your vision, you will attract people who want to come along with you, who have been waiting for an opportunity like yours to pour their hearts and skills into as well.
Mm-hmm. So you've shared already, I think, some really exciting things that you have worked on and you are working on. Mm-hmm. What are you excited about next? And what's the next thing you're going to overcome?
I'm excited about getting these larger scale projects across the starting line, first of all, never mind the finishing line. I don't think there is any finishing when you're working with youth in education, but getting in 2026 our international status like really solidified and getting that going. I'm also a founding board member of a not-for-profit alternative high school that we're really hoping to get off the ground. That's like a physical brick and mortar school in our area. So helping that actually see its doors open. And there's so much to overcome. I think learning how to do business in other countries, like just cultural, working together with different cultures. And we are in no way wanting our company to be, oh, well, it works in the West, therefore push it out over the world. It's how do you really co-create experiences for young people around the world. And again, just to have the opportunity to do that is such a gift I'm looking forward to. Mm-hmm.
When you share that, there's different cultures, right? Like there's different ways to integrate into a different market, and they may value different things over what we value. And
yes,
I'm just thinking, I was just at an event last week, and there was a pitch around this AI tool, and somebody asked a question, and I kind of went, huh? It was, they asked the question around the language. Okay, you say it's available in these different languages, but is it good enough to fit in with their culture? Like, have you picked up on their cultural nuances? Like, for instance, does the Chinese actually work in the Chinese language? And I was like, you're trying to ask such an intellectual question, but Chinese isn't a language.
Right, I know. Yeah. And it's not just a matter of like, oh, well, our AI can translate everything into a different language. It's like, no, it's who are the actual human beings on the other side? And do they want what you're offering? Do they need what you're offering? Does it need to be adjusted for, yes, the answer is yes. Everything should be adjusted for different contexts. And I think that ego of North America, this is actually a great question I had when I was sharing with one of my clients about this opportunity. And he said, well, don't we need this in Canada? I said, absolutely we do. Well, why hasn't it happened? Like, you've been doing this for almost 4 years in Canada. And I said, I think in a quote unquote first world country, we have a certain, what we do works, and we are the global standard, and keep doing what we're doing. And I have many friends that I like really respect in education and higher education. And that isn't every case by any means, but systematically what we've got works is kind of, I'm doing air quotes for those listening to a podcast. But in other parts of the world, I think there's this recognition of where they've come from, where they're at, and where they still want to go in a different way without the ego, but also that they're doing it. They're in the work, and there's an openness to
different priorities, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And like a hunger to improve and to grow. And even if some of these countries were reach, again, quote unquote, first world status, I think just coming up through this adversity and having to come together as nations to see improvement and actually see it happen in a fairly short period of time. It's kind of embedded in a culture that you strive for continuous improvement. And I feel like we've lost that a little bit. Like, there's danger of hitting a plateau to think, and even within a business of, oh no, we're good, we got it. You always have to be keeping your eyes and ears out to how you need to continue to evolve.
Arrogance is like the first sign of hitting rock bottom. Doesn't feel like it in the moment. You're on top of the world at that time, right?
Yeah.
I'm so excited to follow your journey as you expand into these other countries. But this has gone by really, really fast. Is there anything, if you were to go back in time to your younger self, what guidance would you give to your younger self?
So many things. But I think being you is a product, like letting yourself become and just keep learning, keep networking. Like, again, word of mouth. All of my businesses have been built on word of mouth. We've tried the really smart marketing strategies that weren't actually very smart, obviously, but word of mouth is so valuable. And it's not just in business, but it's in your becoming as well. Stay connected, stay curious, and be patient and open with your becoming journey.
Okay, good. So you've learned your patience then.
Oh, learning. That's always the end
Always a
process. Yeah.
I love it. If people want to check you out, Jessica, where can they find you or
Yeah.
some
Again,
information on the project?
When you've got many plates, but we created thejessicaflynn.com as one place to land to get connected with all the projects.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on this.
Thank you, Mallory. Thank you so much.
If this conversation sparked something for you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This is The Wow Effect. See you next time.